video we have a quick look at the Warwickshire Event Centre, where the Midlands Model Engineering exhibition was held just over a week ago. We found lots of tools for sale and some fantastic displays. Later in the video we start to make a die holder for the lathe, so let's see how we do it. As you can see, it was a rainy day in Warwickshire, but that didn't put us off. Today I'm looking at making a die holder for the lathe. This is my current die holder. This is a 1-inch die with a 3/4 hole at the back and just a handle, and the die goes in the end. It's held in with some grub screws, and this moves freely up and down this adapter bar, which has a number 2 Morse taper and a 0.75 diameter ground shaft. So when that goes on there, it can move in and out, and there's a hole in the end to accept the bar. The problem I have with this one is it holds 1-inch dies, and I have some dies that are smaller, and I want to make a new die holder to hold a smaller die. But this gives me another problem. The hole size in the die stock for the smaller die is 0.812 inch. The bore I would need is 0.750, so the difference between the two doesn't leave me enough on the flat inside to support the die square. So what I will do is make the bore here 650. This is where the die will sit in the bore, and the rest of the steel will have a 750 holes to slide up and down the shaft. This bore needs to be 0.812, 1/4 inch deep, then come down to 0.650 for about 1/2 inch, and then I'll turn it around and bore it out from the back 0.750 to fit onto the guide. So the first thing I need to do with this 3-jaw chuck is get the bar running true. This is a 3-jaw cell centering chuck which I can offset. Just putting that bar in the chuck. This is running out 10 thou. 0 to 10 is a thou. Each division is 1/10. So first of all I get the lowest reading, which is there, and I will tighten the adjuster that's nearest the reading, which is that one. So if I tighten this up, it should pull the component or the bar towards the tool position. So just turn it round again. So I've gone from 10 thou to 8. That's the lowest position there. Take the adjuster nearest the lowest position and just turn it. And you need to make sure that the other adjusters are loose. Okay, so now it's going from 0 this, 0 to 6 thou. Get the lowest reading, tighten the adjuster that's nearest that reading. Before it was this one, now it's moved to this one. Let's see again. So now I'm down to 4 thou. Just over a thou. It's got some kicks in it. The kicks have been made by the marks on here. So that's just over a thou, so that will do. So now what I will do is just check. That's tight. That's tight. Just check that all the 3-jaw adjusters are tight. So I've gone from 10 thou down to 1 thou. Okay, I'll just show you one of the problems I have when you're filming on the lathe. You'll see that's in focus. You can see this is in focus on the top of the bar. But as soon as I turn the lathe on, it goes out of focus. And the camera is struggling to pick up the beam that's being reflected. So what's happening? The camera's sending a beam down to the bar, and as the bar's turning, it's not reflecting it directly to the camera, so it's struggling to focus. As soon as I stop the machine, it'll focus on it. So what I have to do now is put this camera in manual focus, so that now when it starts, still in focus, it doesn't adjust. The first thing I need to do is face off the end of the bar. So that face is okay. What I want to do is skim the out here of the bar, so when I turn it round in the chuck, the bores that I'm machining will be running true. this diameter, it doesn't matter the size. I'll leave it as that is. The next job is to drill a hole through so that I can bore out the diameter for the die. This is a 1/2 inch drill. Just tighten my belt up a bit, it's slipping on that slightly. Speed that up a bit, I think. Let's just check how deep I've gone. The whole component wants to be about 2 inches. That's 2.127. I'm just setting my dial indicator up on my block here. This slides along the bed. Now, one problem with this is because the block is so thick, the normal dial indicator tip just appears on the end. So what I'm doing is swapping that for one that's longer. Doesn't need a one with a ball on the end. So this is just a small extension tip with a flat face that touches up against the face on the casting. So all I have to do is move my tool the depth I need and then set the dial indicator up. I have DRO fitted to this lathe. I'll just show you another way of setting the depth if it was a critical depth. This is not. You just bring your tool up, touch the face with the tool, and I'm moving the saddle across. Then on your cross slide, back off the depth that you need. So I need to go in about 17 millimeters. So if I back this off 17 mil, once you've got the 17 mil, move the saddle forward to touch the face again. Then you can reset your dial indicator to 0. Move your saddle back, and then using the top slide again, wind the tool back to where it was originally. So now when the tool touches the face, the gap on your dial indicator is already set, so I'll wind the tool into the bore, move this down to 0 on the dial indicator, and if I look at the DRO readout, you can see the y-axis is 0. So move it out, move it back to 0 on the dial indicator. So that's the way of setting an accurate depth for your tool. should be about 0.62. .624, and I was looking at 0.65. .649, that'll do. Now I've set my tool back onto the face and I've reset my dial indicator to give me at 0.26, depth just over 1/4 of an inch, and that's so that once I've got this depth I can then re-skim the face and I know it'll be 1/4 of an inch. So I need to bore this out to 812. About 800, there we go, just fits in there. .825, it's 810. Here's the original die holder. 814, 812. But that fits in there okay, just goes in look. I don't want to push it too far in, I won't get it out. So what I want to do now is just go back in with that tool in the same position, and then when I hit the face, go along the face to make sure I've got a flat face. To do now is just skim this face. So just take the sharp edges off. Let's get the die. And that fits in there nicely up against the face. So the next job is to part this off to length, turn it round, get the outside running true again, and then bore the hole to 0.750. moment. I've just put a piece of dowel in the Jacob's chuck on the end of the tailstock, because this is a fairly chunky piece of metal to be flying around, and I'm hoping that the piece of dowel will just hold it in position so it doesn't fall down on my bed and damage the bed. Go. On the 3 jaw I can't get it inside the body of the chucks, so this has gone back into the chuck. I've clocked up on the outside of the components, it's got that running through, and I've used some bits of steel to protect the surface of the part from getting damaged by the chuck jaws. I've reset the boring tool up, and what I'm going to do now is go in 1 1/4 inch and bore that out to 0.75. Now I've gone in 1 1/4, so I'll set my dial indicator to 0 on the carriage. With the DRO you don't really need it, but I find it's easier to look at a dial indicator than numbers flashing around. So when that goes up to 0, 1 turn in, it's on 1.25D. And I need to bore this out to 0.75, so let's put my traverse on. Point 610. $7.43 then. This is the bar held in the tailstock. This is the die head that we've just made. Slides on the bar, and in the end I've got the die fitted. So the next job is to drill 3 holes and tap 3 holes that hold the die in position, and then another 2 holes to put handle on the outside of this.